The inverted tuckover roll. This video covers the inverted tuckover roll from the number 5 lead solo perspective. This is one of the maneuvers where we depart from the current Blues show. Because we're flying Legacy Hornets, we chose to do the inverted version of the tuckover roll, which the team performed only briefly, between 1987 and 1990. This maneuver enjoyed only a short lifespan and may have only been performed occasionally due to the high degree of skill required and the dangers inherent in the maneuver. Since we are flying in a simulator, the risk factor may be mitigated for us, but the challenge is still very much there. The inverted tour is extremely technical and rewards precision and consistency, and will test your inverted form flying skills, so pay close attention to the details. Briefing. This maneuver starts after the 90-degree clear following the opposing vertical pitch. Number 6 will pop up to 10 degrees nose high and roll left to take the crowd right heading. And number 5 will pull into formation, maintaining speed with the afterburner to rejoin on number 6's right wing. As number 5, you'll be flying formation for the next few maneuvers. Your job is to fly a welded, excellent formation off of number 6's right wing. But you'll also have a lot to do to make these maneuvers look good. While 6 will strive to give you a consistent and stable platform, it's your job to paint the rest of the picture for the crowd. Once number 5 is in, at around 3 nautical miles, number 6 will call for an increase in power to achieve and maintain 380 knots, and will begin a descending left-hand 180-degree turn, rolling out between 3.5 and 4 nautical miles from center point at around 500 feet AGL and canted about 10 degrees outboard. As they ingress towards show center, both aircraft will roll inverted with number 5 on the outside, away from the crowd. The intention is for number 5 to hide his jet, so that it is completely masked by number 6's jet from the crowd's perspective. At center point, both aircraft will execute simultaneous left 225-degree rolls, ending up at a 45-degree left bank with the top of the jet towards the crowd. Once stable flight is achieved, both pilots call clear and lead transfers back to 5. On number 5's call, both pilots initiate a shallow 10-degree climb. Number 5 calls stand by, roll, and both pilots roll their aircraft 90 degrees towards each other before rolling out and executing a 90-degree clearing turn behind the crowd to set up for the section high alpha pass. This is without a doubt the hardest maneuver to get right, and we're still working on perfecting it. Practice will make perfect for this one, so let's dive in. Walkthrough. Welcome back to the cockpit of the F-18C Hornet. We've just completed the vertical pitch and made our 90-degree right-hand turning clear behind the crowd to set up the rejoin for the inverted tuckover roll. The inverted tuckover roll is by far the most challenging maneuver in the show for both pilots, and there's a reason why they only performed this maneuver for a few years in the F-18C Hornet with the real Blue Angels, and you'll see exactly why as we start to get into this maneuver. But if you decide to do the inverted tuckover roll versus the tuckover roll, which is what they do today in the Super Hornets, be prepared for a lot of sweat and tears, because, I'll be honest, we haven't yet gotten it right in the Legacy Blue Solos. So here we are behind the crowd 0.7 miles, setting up for the rejoin, and we're going to be calling Chariots clear and clearing behind the crowd for the inverted tuckover roll, and we're going to call contact when we see Brother Leb. So as soon as I unpause this, I'm going to be looking crowd left to look for Brother Leb's jet as I bank and pull hard behind the crowd to go to the crowd left heading to start the rejoin for the inverted tug-over roll. This is a similar rejoin to what number 6 does for the Fortis, so if you want to get an instructional on how number 6 performs this for the Fortis, you can go watch Brother Leb's video on the Fortis and take a look at his rejoin, but we'll talk it over briefly here as well. So, Cherry's clear, and clearing behind the crowd for the inverted tug-over roll. Contact, because I see him. And now we're going to roll. We're going to pause here. So as soon as Brother Leb crosses my bug here, that's when I'm going to pause and roll level. And then what we're going to be looking for is we're going to be looking for Brother Leb to cross our bar over here, our canopy bow over here, at which point we're going to start a left-hand 90-degree bank to reform behind Brother Leb. And he's going to start calling his speeds right about now. Another thing that's important to note is we're looking for 420 knots in full burner. Anything above 430 and the jet's going to try and walk away from you with its speed because the FCS is going to prevent you from pulling around that corner fast enough. But anything below 420 knots and the jet's actually going to slow down with full backstick around the corner. So you want to hang it around 420 knots and ease the backstick pressure to keep that 420 knots coming around the corner. As we roll out behind crowd, facing the crowd right heading, because we're about to do a 180-degree turn back around, as we're rolling out, do not exceed 450 knots. A clean F-18 gets really slick at that point and can actually start to run away with speed, and you might overshoot Brother Leb, and that's not something we want to do. So, 420 knots in the turn, and when we roll out, no more than 450. So you're going to be modulating your throttle in order to accomplish this. So let's see how we do. Rolling out, waiting for him to cross the bow, there we go, and pulling in, he's behind the canopy bow, there he is. Pulling in behind him, trying to maintain 420 knots, we're pulling a little bit hard, we're at 410, now we're going to roll out and let that speed build up again. Looking for Brother Leb, we're going to be trying to line up right underneath his right wingtip, so backing it off to 400 knots now. So basically, I have a couple rules of thumb. As we're approaching Brother Leb and we're rolled out behind the crowd, basically, when he's still a little small in our window and we can't tell the distance that we're closing in on him, I hold 450 knots. As soon as I start to see him grow in the HUD, I back it down to 400 knots. Brother Leb is seeking 350 knots on this clear, so I want to have a 100 knot speed, overspeed on him when he's still a little speck in my window, and when he starts growing, I want to have a 50 knot overspeed on him. And then, as we're approaching Brother Leb, when it gets really uncomfortably close, that's when we jam on the brakes and try and park it at 350 knots right underneath his right wing. And we'll take a look at that sight picture when we get there, but let's see how we do. So here we go. I'm starting to back it down. He's getting uncomfortably close. 370 knots, still 20 knot overspeed. That's good. And right about here, we call, yeah, I got two, Leb. And the reason we're calling you got two, Leb, is because we're telling him we're in formation relatively, and he can start to maneuver. So at this point, he is free to maneuver, and he will call Souls are behind the crowd for the inverted tug-over roll, and we'll call our call sign Chariot to confirm. And now we're going to be slowly bringing our jet forward even more to park the jet in very tight parade formation that gives us wing clearance if one of us has to go up or down, but not much more than that, and you'll see it right here. So we're coming up and a little low right about here. And the goal is to put this Hornet right ahead of this wing right here and to underline the Hornet with this vertical slat. So this is the proper sight picture that we are looking for. We want the Hornet, just the Hornet right there in front of this slat, and we want Hornet to be underlined by the vertical slat here. So let's see how we do on this. A little low, push it up, a little ahead, back it down. Small adjustments the whole time, no over swinging of the adjustments. And now he's going to call come and left, and we start coming left into this turn. At which point I have shifted my view. I'm no longer looking up here. I am looking at this Blue Angels sign here and this stripe down here. Just when we start to see blue on the stripe right down here, that's going to be our position below Brother Leb, and we're looking at this Blue Angels sign to make sure that we can read it fairly flat, and that's going to be our position to the right of Brother Leb. I want to stay tucked into that position fairly close to him, all the way around the corner, making sure to not let his jet go above horizon line, because coming around this corner, we are trying to hide our jet behind Brother Lebs. So we want to make sure to keep ourselves right about in this position all the way around the corner. So let's see how we do. At this point, we're just flying form with him, so coming around the corner comes the pole. And looking good. Still looking at that Blue Angels. We're a little low, so we're going to come up a little bit on the angle. There we go. We're a little out, so we're going to pull in a touch. And right about here, right when we start to see this shoreline come back towards us, or, depending on your show site, when you see the foliage or the buildings that indicate your approach towards center point start to come towards you, that's when you're going to try and make sure to keep the nose of Brother Leb's aircraft between yourself and crowd line. That is a vital part of hiding the jet. And if we are able to do that, keep Brother Leb's nose between ourself and crowd line, we'll be able to successfully hide the jet. So let's see whether or not we accomplish this. So we're looking up now. That's center point, that little box. Trying to keep right about here behind Brother Leb. We get a little behind, and now we're a little behind again. Now we're going a little high. He's rolling out, giving us that call. And now right about here, we're going to start pulling to pull up to about 2.5 degrees high to start our inverted roll. At this point, we are not in a super great position as far as hiding the jet is concerned. We are quite a bit to the right and above Brother Leb, but at this point we're trying to set up well for the inverted roll. So let's see how we accomplish this. Brother Leb's going to start to give the call, and we want to pull up at the same time as him. So instead of being flying in formation with him now, we're trying to be a mirror image behind him and to the right to continue to hide the jet. And this will set us up well for the inverted roll. So the inverted roll over here is very similar to the inverted roll maneuver. We're going to need a little bit of push in the stick in order to make sure that the plane doesn't pull towards behind the crowd as we are at the 90. So a little bit of push in the stick and then a little bit more push to catch the jet to make sure that the nose doesn't drop below the horizon line as we roll out. So let's see how we do here. Comes the pull. Ready, hit it. And we're rolling inverted. And at this point, it's time to make some major adjustments. So we've just rolled inverted. Here's Brother Leb's jet. Our goal for this entire maneuver is to keep Brother Leb's nose between ourself and the crowd line. In this particular show site, we have provided ourselves with a box. I believe that box is going to be somewhere around here-ish right now. It's behind those trees, and it's really challenging to see at the moment. We have a train container box that's tucked in behind those trees, and that is our indicator for crowd line. So we are trying to keep Brother Leb's jet, especially his canopy, between ourselves and that box. And this is the hardest part, because you're trying to maneuver a jet to fly formation inverted. Not only is it hard for us, but it's hard for Brother Leb. He needs to get inverted on a good profile, heading straight towards center point at a decent angle, and then hang the jet there and try and make it not move. The F-18 does not particularly like to fly inverted for long periods of time. It's not designed for that. It's designed to go inverted to do some combat, but it's not designed to go inverted for long stretches of time and be stable. So just like the Fortis, Brother Leb's having to make adjustments to make sure that he stays online and on speed and on altitude. All the while, we're trying to fly off of Brother Leb and keep Brother Leb's canopy between ourselves and the box here. And as you can see, I'm quite a bit off. I'm going to keep us zoomed in here so we can see whether or not we make the proper adjustments to get ourselves online. So it's important to note, what are those proper adjustments? At this point, you've got a decent amount of forward stick or a decent amount of release of the pole going for you. You've got some drive going on, and that's going to be keeping you relatively level. Now, it's important to note that every instinct that you have is going to be backwards right now. If you want to go to the right, that means you have to roll the jet to the left, or left stick, in order to get the jet to go right, because of the way the flight surfaces are affecting the air right now. In order to go left, you're going to need to adjust the flight stick to the right. In order to go up, you have to put some drive in. In order to go down, you have to put some pull in. The only things that are familiar to you will be the rudders, and the fact that those aren't reversed is actually going to mess your brain up, because rather than just inverting all the controls, the rudders are the same, but everything else is upside down. Additionally, you're going to have to be adjusting your speed this entire time, because as we get closer to center point, this box is going to seem as though it is speeding up to us, and that's because the parallax is going to be changing between Brother Leb's aircraft here and the box, which means we're going to have to be increasing our speed and increasing our altitude in order to make this work. All of that is to say, this is really complicated. It's basically attempting to land on an aircraft carrier inverted. Or it's attempting to do aerial refueling inverted. And I know some of you do this for fun in DCS, so that is great practice actually for what we're doing here. But the reason it's more like landing on a carrier is because the carrier, generally, if you have a good setup mission, is moving. And similarly, this box, compared to us, is moving. You're going to have to be making the same adjustments that you would to land on a carrier to keep this box behind Brother Leb's canopy. So, let's see whether or not we can accomplish this. And spoiler, we don't do it. As you can see, comes the push. We're pushing it up. We're a little high right now, and we're a little ahead of Brother Leb, but we're just trying to maintain stable flight. We're going to ease off the power and let Brother Leb's nose come in front. There we go. There's the box. Brother Leb's nose just below it now. And just above it now comes the canopy bow, which gets in our way. And now we're looking at Brother Leb. There's the box. Looking. Now it goes ready, hit it, and we roll 270. And now we're doing a 270-degree roll to the 45 here on our HUD. So we want to be rolling out to that 45, at which point we're going to be looking up at this heading tape. As we look up at that heading tape, we call smoke off. When we hit 64 degrees, we call standby roll. That rolls us to level. Then we call pull to 10 degrees. It used to be 5 degrees. Nowadays it's 10 degrees, so we're taking that 10-degree call. That gives us better clearing and better visibility behind the crowd, so that we make sure to avoid any conflict with the diamond. So we pull to 10 degrees, at which point we call standby roll. We're going to roll to a left knife edge, and that left knife edge is going to require a little bit of push and a full boot of right rudder in order to keep us on line. At which point we call rolling out, which means we're rolling back to level and removing the right rudder. And we call coming left, which means we come to a 90-degree knife edge again and pull behind the crowd looking for Brother Leb right off our left shoulder. Also, as we're climbing away from the crowd, we want to make sure to decrease our speed down to about 400 knots before we start making our maneuvers. This allows Brother Leb to stay in formation with us and make sure that we can make the adjustments to come around behind the crowd without overspeeding Brother Leb too much and ending up too far behind him for the setup for the high alpha pass. So let's see how we accomplish all of that now. Smoke off, standby roll. Pull to 10 degrees. Standby roll. Rolling out. Coming left. At which point we're looking for Brother Leb. Contact. And he's going to call rolling out. And we roll out. Coming left. And now we come behind crowd and we're going to form up for the high alpha pass. As you can see, the inverted tuckover roll is extremely complicated. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of coordination between both pilots. Both pilots have to be perfect and fly consistent and predictable profiles in order for the maneuver to look even remotely correct. So you can see why, after just a few short years, they decided to change back to a normal tuckover roll. And now it's time for a demonstration of the inverted tuckover roll from that Kobaletti show we've been using from a few months ago. Pay close attention to the tightness of the formation flying, as well as the careful coordination as we go inverted and set up for the most challenging maneuver in the show.
Trace clear. And clearing behind the crowd for the inverted tuckover roll, state 6-0.
State 6-3.
Contact.
Easing some power. Easing more power. 380. 375. 370. 365. 360. Easing the pull. And rolling out. 355. 350. There's 350. Little pull to level.
You got 2 leb.
Leb. Adding power, and we're coming left for the inverted tuck-over roll. Coming further left comes the pull. A little more pull. Easing the pull. And rolling out, using some power. The inverted tug-over roll.
Chariot.
Little angle. We're living with it. A little pull. Ready. Hit it.
Smoke on.
A little drive. Ready. Hit it. Clear.
Turret's clear. Smoke off. Stand by, roll. Pull to 10 degrees. Stand by, roll. Rolling out. Coming left.
Inside. Low.
Contact.
Rolling out and coming left using power. 385. 380. Adding back in a little power. 375. There's 370. 375. And we're rolling out.
Yeah, I got 2 leb.
Leb, using a little power.
State 5-5.
State 5-9. A little drive.
That's how the Legacy Blue Solos perform the inverted tuck-over roll. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel, where you can find full side-by-side show sequences and debriefs. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the flight line.